Hi, everyone. It is Monday night, and I wanted to go ahead and check in with my students who are home, absent, and also students who may want to revisit what we did in class today. Today, we started talking about the Marius unit, and so that's what this will be about, or the Marius section of the book. So I'm here in Google Classroom, and this is first period, but every period is the same. I put some things in the stream that I want to highlight for you. One is about a AP night that happened, and it happened last week during the week, and so you may have missed it. If you look in our stream and find this link, you'll find all of these videos about different AP classes. And so you don't have to sit through all of them. You can pick and choose which one you want to take a look at. But for example, here's AP World History. And this is a video that Mr. Thomas, the person who teaches it, made. And so he's going to give you the best information about the class, as will all of these other AP teachers. So if you're considering an AP class, that's one place you can look to find out more information. We also, I'm posting every week what time I have available for makeups, and I'm encouraging you to communicate with me if you've been absent and you come back about when you would like to make up your tests for our unit. Beyond Flex. Of course, you can come to Flex, but if you need to come at a different time, let's talk about that. So I have some information about classes for you here, and it's kind of in an odd place. It's in our Greek Roots slideshow. So if you go down the left here in this table of contents and you find the Greek Roots section and then our slideshow, you will find some more information about classes. And I think I just put it here so that I would remember to bring it up every year when it's time to pick your classes. So by the way, we are basically finished with Greek Roots this Tuesday and Wednesday, and you have access to this slideshow. I just showed you how to get here. And so you should be able to get all of these notes that you may have been missing while you were absent. So make sure you have those and you're prepared, because there will be a Greek Roots test this week, and you'll want to make that up when you come back. And so we've talked quite a bit about classes. In English, we go and choose classes next Tuesday and Wednesday. And so hopefully you're able to get your course request form, your pink form, by then and get the signatures that you need and have it all ready to go. And that's when you'll sit down with a counselor and figure out your classes. So we've gone through these things a couple of different ways: the graduation requirements, the four-year college entrance requirements. I really wanted to show you this. This is a link to our course directory at the district. And I sometimes find this difficult to find on the district website. So here's the link. It's in a nice, easy place for you. And what this will take you to is this document that the district creates, but they no longer necessarily print it off on paper and hand it to everyone. It's online. But talking to your friends about classes and what to take, or siblings, even teachers, that's great. But there is an official document that can tell you what each class is about, and it's this document. So in about the first 10 pages, there will be a lot of information, like here's a four-year planning document you can use. Here are those graduation requirements. It will have the UCCSU requirements. So this is kind of a lot that we have talked about as a class. But then eventually you will get to this part where you can see these are the course descriptions. Oops, I just made that disappear. So here's English. So for example, if you wanted to compare English 2 versus Advanced English 2, there it is on the screen. And it'll tell you if there's a prerequisite, what schools offer this, because not every class is offered at every school. What grade must you be in to take it? How many units do you get per semester? And then what requirement does it meet for you? So you can see both English 2 and Advanced English 2 meet the UC requirement B. B stands for English, or language arts. And then there will be a written description of the course. So if you're wondering what some of these courses are that are available to you, this is where you go to find that information. And then I talked to the class about ROP classes a little bit, because I think advanced classes are not always told about ROP, it's assumed that you won't have room in your schedule, or maybe this wouldn't interest you. And I think that you should have all the information possible. And I'll tell you, it is possible to take many, many high-level AP classes, requirements for college, and take ROP. And I know that because I used to teach ROP and I had students who were able to do that. So it is possible. So ROP is open for you junior and senior year. The reason I talk about it today is because hopefully you're looking ahead to kind of this 4-year plan of how are you going to work your way through high school beyond just next year. So looking ahead to this, you have to be a junior or senior because not all of these classes are offered on the Ponderosa campus. And so you need to provide your own transportation to get to this class and then back to your home school. They're either offered in the morning or the afternoon. So students from all over our district can come to their ROP classes and also be at their home school during the day. So these are the ones that are on the Ponderosa campus. Animal health, which is a preparatory class for students who might be interested in going into animal-based fields like veterinary medicine, horse training, dog kennels, dog grooming, that kind of thing. Diesel engines is on our campus. Mr. Taylor teaches that. He has a beautiful diesel engine lab with about 25 diesel engines. And so it's not just talking about the topic, you actually go and learn hands-on in every single one of these classes. Medical is at El Dorado High School. And by the way, all ROP classes have to be taught by a professional in the field. So for example, and they have to have had a certain number of hours in the field. So our medical class is taught by a nurse right now, I believe. Our dental class is taught by a dental hygienist. Our cosmetology class is taught by an esthetician and stylist, a cosmetologist. And so you're learning from experts in the field. So that makes this a unique learning opportunity while you're in high school. So dental and cosmetology are located behind Union Mine High School. And they have very nice facilities there that where you walk in and it looks like that business. Like when you walk into the dental classroom, it looks like a dentist's office. Because again, students learn the theory and then they apply it hands-on. Law enforcement is on the Ponderosa campus. Fire is on the El Dorado campus, but we also have a piece of property in Camino. And so that's like their lab where those students can go and they have their engines and hoses and they can set control burns and put fires out and really learn hands-on what to do in that field. Programming, I'm not sure if this one is happening this year. I just don't know. You have to look that one up. Culinary arts is consistently offered. There's actually a restaurant at El Dorado High School where students learn from a chef, and they learn both about the front of the house, like where people would sit. And so you learn about managing the front of the house. And then in the back of the house, there's an industrial size kitchen. And that is where this chef is teaching you how to cook, how to cater, cook to order, that kind of thing. And so just know that these are available to you as you get older, and it's that same link that'll take you to the course description and give you more information. So we go to pick classes in about a week. So make sure you have all your ducks in a row so you're ready for that. All right, but what I want to spend most of the time on this period is Marius. And so I'm going to go here to this week, January 31st. Here's our reading calendar, by the way. If you're unsure where we are, you should be on page 299 by Tuesday and Wednesday of this week. Some of my students are shocked when I say that, but the calendar's right here. And if you were in class when we started, you have a bright orange calendar that tells you where you should be. So you definitely want to be doing your best to keep up with the reading so that you know what we're talking about when you come to class. So here's our Marius section at the beginning. One of my students asked for this early on in the unit, and you may just have missed that we're doing this. I made an important characters and places to know page here because he said there are just so many names of people and places, streets and towns. What is it that we need to know? Can you boil that down? So I said, yes, I can. And so these are the people you should probably know. Here's a little description of them. And then these are the places that are important. So I'm just adding to this as we go through the sections of the book. So this is not complete. I'm making it this year. So I'll keep adding to that. So that might be something that could help you to determine what is important and what is not as you're reading. And then this is the Marius study guide. And I just posted this later today. So we didn't even look at this as a class yet. So if you're home, absent, you didn't miss this in class. We didn't talk about it today either. But we did talk about these parts of the book. So that's what I want to go through with you. So number one, you should be able to know and be able to describe the relationships between Pontmercy, Monsieur Gillenormand, and Marius. Those are the three men that I put in a previous lecture and I said are so important for you to know in this section. Not every man, not every person's name is important, but you absolutely should know those three. So number two, Marius is raised by his grandfather. Remember, because Gillenormand does not approve of his son-in-law, Pontmercy. Remember, Pontmercy is our hero of the Republic who has the big gash on his face from the battle at Waterloo. Marius is his son. Gillenormand does not agree with Pontmercy's politics, and therefore he cannot stand the man. And so he says that he wants to raise Marius. There's no way that Pontmercy is going to raise his own son. This is after the death of Marius's mother in childbirth. So Pontmercy agrees because he wants Marius to have all advantages that he can in life, and that includes money. And the inheritance is what is at stake. If he does not give Marius to his grandfather to raise, then he won't get that inheritance. So his father agrees to that. Number three, describe Pontmercy's death and Marius's reaction to it. What is Marius given as his inheritance? And so the Marius section starts on page 219. I'm actually going to go back a little bit and I'll come back to this question. So on page 219, it says about 8 or 9 years after the events narrated in the second part of this story, there was seen a little boy of 11 or 12 years of age who basically lived on the streets. His father never thought of him, and his mother did not love him. His parents had thrown him out into life with a kick. So, things to think about here. This is 8 or 9 years after Jean Valjean and Cosette dropped over the wall into the convent. So they've been living in the convent for 8 or 9 years. This little boy, whose parents are neglecting him, is Gavroche, the son of the Thénardiers, who we met just a little bit in the previous section when it said he was in another part of the house crying and his mother didn't help him at all. Here he is, and we want to remember him. So Gavroche is like a street urchin. He lives on the street. He fends for himself. His parents don't care for him. On page 220 on the bottom, it says, among those who lived in the building, the wretchedest of all were a family of 4 persons, father, mother, and 2 daughters nearly grown. These are the Thénardiers. They have moved to Paris. So they used to live in their little town, Montfermeil, where they had their inn. 8 or 9 years have passed, and they now are in Paris. Jean Valjean and Cosette are in Paris. They're in the convent. Javert is in Paris, the police inspector. He's been promoted, and so he's now working in a big city. So all of our important characters are now in the same place. So their lives are starting to come together. They're all in the big city of Paris at this point. When the Thénardiers moved to Paris, they changed their name, probably because they've done so many illegal things or they're hiding from debt collectors. And so their new name is Jondrette. But understand, it's the same family. It's the same people. Now, we've talked about how Hugo loves coincidence. And so the Jondrettes, Thénardiers, are living in the old Garbeau house, which is the same ratty apartment building that Jean Valjean and Cosette first moved into when they came to Paris. And it's kind of like a hideout. It's an unnoticeable building. It's kind of hidden. So it was good for Jean Valjean and Cosette for a while until Javert found them. And so the Thenardiers have moved into that building. And by coincidence, right next door is this man, Marius. So they're now neighbors. Okay. All right. So on pages 222 through about 230, that's where the book describes the three men that I already told you about and put in that worksheet. Pontmercy, Gillenormand, and Marius. So you should read that so that you understand their relationship to each other and how each man is. Marius is about 20 at this point in the story. Cosette is about 15 at this point, maybe 14. So on page 229 to 230, Marius gets summoned to Pontmercy's bedside because Pontmercy is dying. And so he gets this message and he is told, you need to come see your father. He's dying. Marius feels nothing about his father. He's never known him. Remember, he was told by his grandfather his father did not love him and he gave him up. And his father wrote him letters. The grandfather threw them away. They weren't allowed any contact. So Marius does go to see his father. He arrives just a little too late. His father has already died. And he feels nothing. He has nothing to feel. It says at the end of this part, on page 232, he puts crepe on his hat. So that's a type of black ribbon to show that he's in mourning, like out of respect. But he's not really feeling anything about this man. He is given a letter at his father's death. And the letter does two things. It gives Marius, Pontmercy has nothing. He owns nothing. He has no money. So he has no inheritance to give his son. But he gives him this letter and says, I have the title of Baron. It's like an honorary title. And so I'm passing that on to you. That's what I can give to you. You can use my title. And then in the same note, he asks Marius to watch out for a man named Thénardier. Remember, Pontmercy thinks that Thénardier pulled him out of this pile of bodies at Waterloo. So he thinks he owes him his life. And he says, if you ever meet a man named Thénardier, do all that you can for him. He saved my life. So there's a promise, like a pact within the letter, and then there is this inheritance of the title. So as we discussed, Marius, by meeting Monsieur Mabeuf, the old man in the church who says, oh, you're the child. Your father used to come to church and stand behind that pillar, and he would look for you every week. He loved you so much. He wanted to see you every week. So Marius learns of that, and he starts to research who his father was. And we talked about this earlier in class. So he is researching his father. He finds out he was actually a hero of the Republic, and maybe he wasn't such a bad guy after all. And his grandfather, who had lied to him all the time, maybe he wasn't doing the right thing. So Marius gets these calling cards made. In those days, you would get a card made with your name on it, and when you introduced yourself to someone, you'd give them your card so they could remember who you are. And on the cards, he puts Baron Marius Pontmercy. So he takes on that Baron. Now, in all this time that Marius is going out and researching the Republic, his father, what does all of it mean? He's questioning his political views. His grandfather thinks that he's out seeing a woman. He thinks he's having an affair. And his grandfather's very happy about that because he is quite a womanizer himself in his younger years. And so he thinks this is great. Marius is in his 20s. He's going out with women. He's hanging out with his friends. He's out all the time. That's what the grandfather thinks is happening. And then what happens is that the grandfather gets kind of nosy. Remember, he loves Marius deeply, although he has this very gruff exterior and he doesn't know how to show it. So he gets kind of nosy and he wants to know, who is this woman? What's going on? And so he starts searching in Marius's room where Marius's coat is, and eventually the calling cards and the letter fall out of his pockets. And as soon as the grandfather sees this, he just feels betrayed. This would be like if you had kept a secret from your parents and then they found out. He feels hurt. He can't believe that Marius would lie to him, not tell him what he had been doing. And so this argument ensues, a huge argument. It's on page 240, in which they go back and forth about their beliefs, and they insult each other's beliefs and so on, until on page 242, the grandfather says, "Be off." Marius left the house. So Marius leaves. On page 243, you're going to come to the Friends of the ABC. Sorry, I forgot about our questions. Let's see where we are. Number 8, Marius goes to Montfermeil to try to find the Thénardiers because he's trying to repay this favor of his father's, but he can't find him there because they're in Paris. All right, so we're on number 9, if you're keeping track with the discussion questions. So on page 243, actually we're on number 11, the Friends of the ABC. This is the part where I told you don't need to know all the men's names. You can write them down. You can sort them out if that is better for your brain, but I am not requiring that. I'm not going to put that on any test. You need to know that the Friends of the ABC are a group of young men who are educated or they're getting educated. They're in college right now. They meet in either a bar or a cafe. And the reason they meet with each other is because they all want to talk about politics, the government, how France could be better. They want to share their opinions. There's a great line in here where Marius says that he had fallen into a mental wasp's nest. Like they're just buzzing all the time, talking about their ideas and their opinions. And so just know them as a group of young men who are all after the same thing. They're unhappy with the way that France is being run. They're not happy with the monarchy. They don't want that again. But they're also not very happy with the republic, because in both of those situations, their lives basically stayed the same and they felt like they were being controlled by the people in power. And so what they wish for is something better, something different. Marius has never been around people like this before who would question any form of government. And so it really helps to develop him as a young man, develop his mind and his opinions. Marius kind of stumbles on these men by accident because when he leaves his grandfather's house after the argument, he doesn't know where to go. He knows one of these young men from school, and so eventually that person says, "Just come with me, just come stay at my place." And so he becomes part of this group. And there's revolt stirring among these men. They're thinking about a revolution, a second revolution, right? And how can they make a difference? How can they change what's happening in France? Don't worry too much about all of the politics of this part. I'm not expecting you to understand all of the politics that are happening in the book. So, because Marius's grandfather loves him but is so mad at him, he still wants to send him money. And so the grandfather's oldest daughter who lives with him, she's never married. She takes care of her father. She's called the elder. She sends money to Marius every month. And Marius sends it back out of pride. He will not take any of his grandfather's money. So therefore, he has to learn to live as a poor man, which he's never had to do. He's always had everything he ever needed. So it explains around page 256 or so, he gets a job, and it explains how he spends his money. And basically, he has money for rent, for 2 meals a day, but they're very sparse, nothing fancy, nothing decadent. He has a little money for clothes, and that's about it. He has 3 shirts, one that he wears, one that's at the cleaners, and one that's in his closet. And he just rotates those. So he's starting to look a little bit shabby. He's living in this kind of dingy apartment, the Garbeau house. But he is not sad. And that's important to understand about Marius. So you should read pages 260 to about 265. And it discusses Marius and how he feels about being poor. He's very optimistic, actually. And he feels that he is rich because he is young and he is free. and he's doing okay, living on basically nothing. So that's what I have here on number 12. Okay. 13, 14, how does he just survive with little to no money? And that's basically where we left off in class today. So as we continue to go through these questions, we'll start off with probably 16 when we go back to class again. I'll make another video and talk to you about the rest of this section. So just try to do your best to keep up with the reading if at all possible so you don't fall behind. And if you ever have questions, you can email me or bring them back to class with you. Thank you. Have a good night.